One day, the last light in the universe will vanish. It will not end with a thunderous bang, but with a whisper. Look up at the night sky tonight. What you see is a masterpiece of slow-motion chaos. Galaxies are currently colliding, their gravitational tides pulling at one another in a dance that has lasted for eons. Stars burn with fierce, brilliant intensity against the deep, velvet void. It is a spectacle of creation, a vibrant engine of light and energy. Yet, beneath this breathtaking beauty, a silent crisis is already unfolding. The light we see is a survivor of a long history, but it is also a ticking clock. Even as we map these distant suns, the shadows are lengthening. We live in the golden age of observation, a brief window where the universe is still loud with the glow of a billion burning hearths. But the darkness is not just a distant threat. It is a patient observer. The universe is a grand stage, yet the curtain is already beginning to drift closed. The universe is not static. It is a structure in constant, restless motion. While we perceive the sky as a fixed map of constellations, the reality is a frantic, outward surge. Space itself is stretching. It is not just the galaxies moving through the void itself is growing. A mysterious force, invisible and relentless, pushes against the fabric of reality. Every second, this pressure increases. Gravity tries to hold the clusters together, but this expansion acts as a constant, widening wedge. We measure the redshift of distant light and see the truth written in the spectrum. The gaps between the great galactic islands are widening. The universe is not just expanding, it is gaining speed. This is the hidden engine of our future. It is a fundamental shift in the geometry of existence, turning the vast web into a series of drifting, isolated points. The acceleration hits a threshold where distance becomes a barrier that light itself cannot cross. Imagine a signal sent from a distant galaxy, a beam of light traveling across the vast, dark expanse. It races toward us, but the space it traverses is stretching faster than the light can move. The gap grows wider with every passing second. The light is trapped in a race it cannot win. It becomes a ghost, a message from a place that is effectively retreating beyond the edge of our reach. We look out, but the horizon is pulling back. The galaxies are not just moving away. They are being carried off by the expansion of space itself, pushed into a realm where their light will never again touch our eyes. This is the Great Departure. It is a silent, invisible severance. The universe is fracturing into islands of light, each drifting into its own private, unreachable pocket of the void. We are witnessing the slow, systematic dismantling of our cosmic neighborhood. The sky is becoming a cage of our own making, a narrowing circle of visibility. The process is not instantaneous. It is a slow, methodical erasure of the heavens. Centuries pass, and the change becomes undeniable to any observer who dares to look up. The familiar patterns of the night sky, those ancient guides for navigation and myth, begin to unravel. First, the faint, distant smudges of light at the edge of vision vanish, one after another, as if someone were dimming the lights in a vast, darkened hall. Then, the process accelerates. The constellations lose their depth. The brilliant clusters that once anchored our understanding of the cosmos slip over the horizon. It is a systematic thinning of the stellar population. Where there was once a dense, vibrant tapestry of light, there is now only a sparse, hollow arrangement. The sky grows quiet. The vibrant, chaotic activity of the galactic neighborhood is replaced by a profound, static emptiness. Eventually, the last of the external galaxies crosses the threshold and disappears, leaving no trace of its existence behind. We are left alone. We look out into a void that is no longer a canvas of history, but a featureless, empty black ocean. The isolation is complete, and the night sky is now a lonely, barren expanse. Within our solitary island of stars, a different crisis takes hold. The fuel that powers the cosmic engine is finite. For billions of years, vast clouds of cold gas and dust have collapsed under gravity, igniting into brilliant burning spheres. This cycle of birth and death has defined the history of existence. But now, the supply of raw material begins to dwindle. The gas reservoirs are exhausted, consumed by the relentless formation of new generations of stars. The nurseries of the galaxy grow quiet. No new stars ignite to replace the ones that burn out. The great cycle of renewal falters and finally stops. It is a subtle, creeping stagnation. Where once there was a vibrant, churning forge of creation, there is now only the slow, steady consumption of what remains. Stars continue to shine, but they are the last of their kind. No successors wait in the wings. The galaxy enters a long twilight phase of aging. The mechanisms of life and light are winding down, and the universe begins to settle into a permanent, irreversible stillness. The survivors are few. Scattered across the vast, cooling expanse of the galaxy, the remaining stars are dim, red, and exhausted. They burn with a sluggish, dying intensity, barely holding back the encroaching cold. One by one, they reach their limit. The internal pressure drops. The fusion core falters. The light simply ceases. It is not a sudden explosion, but a quiet surrender to the inevitable. Then, only one remains. It is a small, ancient orb, clinging to its final reserves of hydrogen. It pulses, a rhythmic, desperate heartbeat in the dark. The light flickers, growing weaker with every cycle. The surrounding space, already devoid of warmth, seems to lean in, pressing against the fading glow. The star shudders. Its outer layers expand and then collapse, unable to sustain the gravity that once gave it form. The radiance dims to a dull, ember-like glow, then shifts to a faint, infrared ghost. For a heartbeat, there is a final, microscopic surge of energy, a last gasp of defiance against the void. Then, it vanishes. The last point of light in the entire universe is gone. The darkness is no longer a backdrop. It is the environment. It is absolute. It is total. The light is gone, but the universe is not yet empty. In the absolute silence, the true masters of the void emerge from the shadows. Black holes, once hidden by the brilliance of stars, now define the architecture of the cosmos. They are the only structures left, gargantuan anchors of gravity drifting through an endless, featureless expanse. Trillions of years begin to bleed into one another, measured not by the rotation of planets or the burning of suns, but by the slow, rhythmic consumption of the dark. These gravitational titans roam the void, sweeping up the last stray atoms of hydrogen and the cold, dead husks of planets. There is no resistance. There is no sound. Every particle that wanders too close is pulled into the event horizon, added to the infinite density of the core. The universe has become a graveyard of light, governed by the cold, mathematical certainty of gravity. The era of the black hole has begun, and it will endure for an eternity of silence. Even the masters of the void are not eternal. For eons, they held the universe in their grip, silent and absolute. But the laws of physics hold a final, cruel irony. At the edges of these dark giants, the vacuum itself begins to stir. Quantum effects, subtle and relentless, start to tear at the event horizons. It begins as a whisper of energy, a microscopic leakage. The black holes, once thought to be the final, unchanging monuments of existence, are losing their hold. They are leaking, particle by particle. The immense mass that took trillions of years to gather is being stripped away. The process is agonizingly slow. A black hole that once spanned galaxies now finds its boundaries receding. The intense gravitational pull weakens. They are not being consumed by another force. They are simply unraveling from within. The radiation escapes into the emptiness. The giants are shrinking. The universe is witnessing the final act of dissolution. The era of the black hole is ending with a slow, quantum fade. The decay accelerates as the last black hole reaches its terminal state. It is no longer a titan of gravity, but a flickering spark of dying energy. The event horizon, once a boundary of no return, now shrinks to the size of an atom. The surrounding space begins to snap back into a flat, sterile geometry. There is a final, rapid release of radiation, a last gasp of energy escaping into the infinite dark. Then, the singularity itself collapses. The point of infinite density is gone. The last anchor of the universe has unraveled. Where there was once a structure, there is now only the same empty, featureless void. No matter remains to hold a position. No energy flows to create a ripple in the fabric of space. The last black hole has vanished. The process of dissolution is complete. Every particle, every atom, every shred of history has been dispersed into the vast, cold expanse. The universe has reached a state of total equilibrium. There is no movement. There is no change. There is no longer any distinction between here and there. The final structure has dissolved into the nothingness from which it once emerged, leaving the cosmos in a state of absolute, silent erasure. The state of the universe is now one of total, unyielding equilibrium. With the last black hole gone, the last source of heat has been extinguished. There are no gradients left to drive change. No energy flows from one point to another, because every point is identical in its cold, dark vacancy. This is the heat death. It is not merely an empty room, it is the end of the possibility of occurrence. Atoms, if any remain, are scattered so far apart that they will never interact again. They are frozen in a permanent, static arrangement. Because nothing happens, the very mechanism of time breaks down. Time is measured by change, by the movement of gears, the decay of isotopes, or the orbit of planets. Without these, the clock simply stops. There is no before or after in a universe where nothing can ever occur. The cold is absolute, approaching the theoretical floor of temperature where motion itself is impossible. Space is no longer a stage for events. It is a featureless, infinite tomb. Everything that was once complex, vibrant, and chaotic has been smoothed into a singular, eternal stillness. It is the ultimate, silent conclusion to the cosmic story. Yet, this cold, eternal stillness is not a certainty. Deep within the halls of theoretical physics, the narrative of a slow, silent fade is being challenged. Not every model of the cosmos ends in a whimper. Some equations suggest a far more aggressive conclusion, a destiny that refuses to let the universe simply drift into the dark. These alternative theories propose that the fabric of reality itself is inherently unstable, capable of tearing apart or snapping back with sudden, violent force. Imagine a reality where the laws of physics are not fixed, but are merely waiting for a trigger to rewrite themselves. Physicists point to the possibility of a false vacuum, a state of existence that appears stable but holds a hidden, lethal potential. If a single point in space were to shift into a lower energy state, it would trigger a chain reaction. This is not a slow decay. It is a bubble of new physics expanding at the speed of light, erasing everything in its path. Within this expansion, atoms cannot hold their form. Matter dissolves. Life, structure, and history are wiped out in an instant, without warning or pain. It is a total, instantaneous erasure that renders the concept of a long, drawn-out death irrelevant. The debate rages on. Is the universe destined to freeze, or is it poised for a sudden, catastrophic collapse? But there is another path, one where the universe does not end in a frozen void or a sudden, clean erasure. Instead, the cosmos begins to fight itself. The expansion, which has driven galaxies apart for billions of years, finally loses its grip. Gravity, the silent architect of the stars, begins to reclaim its territory. The process is subtle at first. The outward drift slows. The velocity of receding galaxies drops until, at a precise moment, the movement stops entirely. Then, the reversal begins. The universe does not just stand still. It turns back on itself. Galaxies that have spent eons wandering the deep dark now find themselves pulled toward a common center. the distance between them begins to shrink. At first, the change is imperceptible, a gentle tugging at the edges of the void. But as the contraction gains momentum, the acceleration becomes violent. Galaxies are no longer drifting. They are falling. They rush toward one another across the vast, narrowing gulfs of space. The cosmic dance turns into a frantic, high-speed collision. Every cluster, every nebula, and every stray star is dragged into the fray. The void is no longer an empty expanse, but a tightening trap. The universe is folding inward. The sprint toward the center accelerates beyond the capacity of light to escape. Galaxies collide, merging into a singular, chaotic mass of superheated gas and radiation. The vast, empty distances that once defined the cosmos have vanished, replaced by a crushing, claustrophobic proximity. Every star is stripped of its identity, pulverized into a roiling soup of fundamental particles. Temperatures climb to impossible heights, turning the remaining matter into a blinding, searing plasma. The universe is no longer a collection of distinct objects. Space itself begins to warp and buckle under the strain. The dimensions that allowed for distance and duration are folding in on themselves. There is no more here or there. There is only the tightening grip of gravity. The heat becomes absolute, a white-hot intensity that defies all physical laws. Atoms shatter. Protons dissolve. The very fabric of reality is squeezed into a space smaller than an atom. The entire history of the cosmos is compressed into a single, infinitesimal point. The universe has returned to the state from which it once emerged. Yet, even if the universe avoids the crushing weight of a total collapse, a far more insidious fate waits in the shadows. We operate under the assumption that the laws of physics are permanent, that the fundamental constants governing our existence are set in stone. But this is a fragile illusion. Deep within the quantum fabric, the vacuum of space may not be the lowest possible energy state. It is a false vacuum, a metastable condition that holds only until a catalyst forces a change. Somewhere in the vast silent reaches of the cosmos, a single infinitesimal bubble of true vacuum could form. This is not a collision of stars or a gravitational pull. It is a fundamental shift in the architecture of reality. Inside this bubble, the very rules of nature are rewritten. Atoms cannot hold their structure. The forces that bind matter together simply cease to function. It is a localized infection of a new, alien physics, waiting for the right conditions to trigger. The danger is not external. It is woven into the fabric of space itself. The trigger is pulled. A microscopic fracture in the quantum field expands, and the wavefront moves outward at the speed of light. There is no warning, no tremor in the ground, no flash in the sky. The bubble of true vacuum consumes everything in its path, rewriting the fundamental constants of reality in a fraction of a nanosecond. Atoms do not break. They simply cease to be coherent. The electromagnetic forces that hold matter together vanish, and the solid world dissolves into a chaotic, formless state. Because the wave travels at the cosmic speed limit, it arrives before any signal of its approach. Light from the destruction cannot reach your eyes, because the eyes themselves are dismantled before the photons can hit the retina. The nervous system is erased before a single electrical impulse can register the change. You do not see the end. You do not feel the transition. There is no pain, no fear, and no final thought. The universe is being overwritten, a clean slate spreading across the stars at the fastest possible velocity. Reality is being deleted, sector by sector, atom by atom. Consider the nature of this erasure. It is not merely a death. It is a total negation. When the new physics replaces the old, it does not leave behind a corpse or a memory. It leaves nothing. The laws of nature that allowed your atoms to bind, your neurons to fire, and your consciousness to emerge are replaced by a set of rules where such things cannot exist. In one moment, you are standing in the stream of time, anchored by your history and your future. In the next, the ground of your reality is pulled away. Because the transformation is absolute, The very chain of causality that led to your birth is severed. You are not killed. You are rendered impossible. The universe is rewritten so fundamentally that the version of reality containing you never occurred. It is a clean, silent deletion of the self. There is no record left in the stars, no echo in the void, and no observer to mourn the loss. The timeline is smoothed over, erasing the anomaly of your life. The universe continues, indifferent and empty, having successfully scrubbed the stain of your presence from its history. The finality is not in the end of life, but in the total denial of it. We pull back from the abyss of total erasure to find ourselves here, in the quiet middle of the cosmic narrative. The stars still hold their positions. The galaxies continue their slow, majestic drift through the dark. We are the observers, the ones who have learned to measure the expansion and map the ancient light of distant suns. We stand on a small, spinning rock and point our lenses at the deep, trying to read the handwriting of the universe. Every calculation we make is a desperate attempt to define the boundaries of our own story. We track the acceleration of space, we chart the chemical signatures of dying stars, and we build models that span billions of years. We are currently living in a brief, illuminated window of time where the sky is still crowded with light. We are the witnesses to the middle chapter, a period of relative stability before the final, inevitable shift. Despite our maps and our measurements, a profound silence guards the future. We look toward the cosmic horizon, seeking the final resolution of the story, but the ultimate fate of everything remains hidden. It sits just beyond our reach, obscured by the very expansion we have spent centuries tracking. We possess the tools to observe the past, to trace the light of stars that died eons ago. Yet we are blind to the conclusion of our own era. The data we collect is precise, yet it offers no definitive answer to the question of how the universe will finally settle. Will the expansion continue until the last atom is isolated in an infinite, frigid dark? Or will gravity eventually assert its dominance, pulling the scattered fragments of existence back into a singular, crushing point? We stand at the edge of what can be known, peering into the fog of the future. We ask if we will ever truly understand the end, or if we are destined to remain forever in the dark about our own destiny. The horizon does not yield its secrets. It waits, indifferent to our curiosity, holding the final chapter locked behind the veil of time. But for now, the ultimate fate remains an unreachable mystery. The clock ticks. It is a relentless, mechanical pulse that governs our perception of the passing eons. Every second that slips away is a heartbeat for the cosmos, a tiny unit of time in a story that spans eternity. Above us, the stars continue to burn, consuming their fuel in a brilliant, slow-motion display of defiance against the encroaching dark. They are the current anchors of our reality, glowing beacons in the vast, expanding void. We exist in this precise, fleeting window where light still travels across the gulfs of space. The universe waits in the balance. It is a delicate equilibrium between the warmth of the present and the cold, eternal silence that looms ahead. There is no pause, no reprieve, only the constant motion of matter and the steady decay of energy. We are here, watching the light, feeling the weight of the unknown, and witnessing the grand, unfolding process. The void is patient. It does not rush. It simply waits for the final flicker, for the last star to dim, and for the cycle to reach its inevitable conclusion. Until then, the light remains.